Napoleon Hill collapsed onto his bed at 3 a.m., his body screaming for rest after another 18-hour day of rejection and failure. His manuscript had been turned down by yet another publisher, his bank account was overdrawn, and his wife's disappointed silence cut deeper than any harsh words could. But as exhaustion pulled at his eyelids, Hill forced himself to sit up, grabbed his journal, and wrote, "Tomorrow, I begin again." This was 1928, and Napoleon Hill was living in what he would later call his darkest valley. 3 years into his mission to study successful people and write about their principles, he had nothing to show for it but mounting debt, strained relationships, and a growing reputation as a dreamer who would never amount to anything. The breaking point had come that morning when his landlord knocked on the door, eviction notice in hand. Hill's wife, Florence, had looked at him with eyes that held more pity than anger. "Napoleon," she whispered, "maybe it's time to give up this fantasy and get a real job." Those words hit him like physical blows. Give up? After interviewing Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, and Henry Ford? After receiving what he believed was a divine mission to help humanity unlock the secrets of success? The very thought made his stomach churn with shame and rage. But sitting alone in the darkness, Hill faced a brutal truth: motivation was gone. The fire that had once burned bright in his belly had been reduced to barely glowing embers. He didn't feel inspired. He didn't feel hopeful. He felt defeated, exhausted, and utterly spent. That's when Hill made the decision that would change not just his life, but the lives of millions. He would force himself to succeed, regardless of how he felt. "I cannot afford the luxury of feeling discouraged," he wrote in his journal that night. "If I wait until I feel motivated, I will wait forever." Success must be taken by force, not waited upon like a gift. The next morning, Hill created what he called his Success by Force protocol. Whether he felt like it or not, he would take 5 specific actions every single day. Write for 2 hours, make 10 sales calls, read 1 chapter from a success book, visualize his completed manuscript helping thousands of people, and take 1 step toward his burning desire. The first week was agony. His body felt like lead. His mind screamed excuses. Every fiber of his being wanted to quit. But Hill had learned something profound from his interviews with successful people. They didn't succeed because they felt like taking action, they succeeded because they took action despite not feeling like it. The way to develop self-confidence is to do the thing you fear to do and get a record of successful experiences behind you, Hill reminded himself, quoting words he'd written but never fully understood until now. Day after day, Hill forced himself through his protocol. When his alarm rang at 5 a.m., he didn't debate whether he felt rested. He got up. When it was time to write, he didn't wait for inspiration. He wrote. When it was time to make sales calls, he didn't analyze his mood. He dialed. The breakthrough came 3 weeks into his new discipline. Hill was writing about persistence when something extraordinary happened. The words began flowing like water from a broken dam. For the first time in months, he wasn't forcing himself to write. The writing was pulling him forward. That day, he wrote 12 pages of what would eventually become a cornerstone chapter in Think and Grow Rich. But more importantly, he experienced something that would become central to his teaching: the moment when forced action transforms into natural momentum. A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off, Hill wrote, feeling the truth of these words in his bones. But he added a crucial insight that came from his own struggle. However, desire without forced action remains nothing but wishful thinking. The transformation wasn't just in his work, it was in his entire being. Florence noticed it first. "You're different," she said one evening as she watched him prepare for the next day with military precision. "You're not hoping anymore. You're knowing." Hill nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. The desperate hope of his earlier days had been replaced by something far more powerful: the quiet confidence that comes from proving to yourself that you can force success through disciplined action. His daily protocol became non-negotiable. Rain or shine, sick or healthy, motivated or defeated, Hill showed up. He began to understand what he would later write: discipline is the soul of an army. It makes small numbers formidable, procures success to the weak, and esteem to all. The momentum built week by week. Publishers who had previously ignored his letters began responding. Speaking opportunities emerged. People started seeking his advice. But Hill knew the truth: this wasn't luck or timing. This was the inevitable result of forcing consistent action over an extended period. One morning, Hill received a letter that would change everything. A major publisher wanted to meet about his manuscript. As he held the letter, Hill remembered the man who had collapsed in exhaustion just 6 months earlier, ready to give up on his dreams. That man had been waiting for motivation. This man had learned to manufacture momentum through force of will. The meeting led to a book deal, which led to speaking engagements, which led to a movement that would influence millions of lives. But Hill never forgot the lesson of his darkest valley. Success isn't about feeling ready, it's about forcing yourself forward when you feel anything but ready. Years later, when people would ask Hill about the secret to his success, he would tell them about the night he decided to force himself to succeed. He would explain that motivation is fleeting, but discipline is enduring. That inspiration comes and goes, but systems create results. Most people fail because they wait until they feel like doing something, Hill would teach. Successful people force themselves to do what needs to be done, whether they feel like it or not. This is the difference between dreamers and achievers. Hill's teaching evolved to emphasize this crucial distinction. He showed people that burning desire was essential, but it meant nothing without the discipline to force action when desire wasn't enough. He taught that definiteness of purpose was powerful, but only when coupled with the self-mastery to pursue that purpose on the days when it felt impossible. The man who had once waited for perfect conditions learned to create momentum under the worst conditions. The dreamer who had hoped for external motivation became the teacher who showed others how to generate internal drive through disciplined action. In his later writings, Hill would emphasize this principle repeatedly. Success is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure, but most of all, it's the result of forcing yourself to take action when action is the last thing you want to take. His story became proof of his own teaching. Every principle he shared, from the power of definite purpose to the importance of persistence, had been forged in the crucible of his own forced discipline. He wasn't teaching theory, he was sharing the battle-tested strategies that had pulled him from the depths of failure to the heights of influence. The Napoleon Hill who inspired millions wasn't the man who felt motivated every day. He was the man who had learned to force himself forward on the days when motivation had abandoned him entirely. He was living proof that greatness isn't about feeling ready, it's about forcing yourself to become ready through disciplined action. Hill's legacy became clear. He hadn't just studied successful people. He had become one by applying the hardest principle of all. While others waited for the right moment, the right feeling, or the right circumstances, Hill had forced himself to create the right results through unwavering discipline and persistent action. As Napoleon Hill once wrote, "Strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle. The person who succeeds is not the one who avoids difficulty, but the one who forces themselves through it." Your dreams are waiting on the other side of disciplined action. Stop waiting to feel motivated. Stop hoping for perfect conditions. Stop looking for signs that you're ready. Force yourself to begin today. Take one action toward your burning desire, then another, then another. Success isn't about feeling like a champion. It's about forcing yourself to act like one until you become one. The time for waiting is over. The time for forcing your breakthrough is now.